Going to get started. The Torah portion today is Exodus 18:1 through 20:23, or depending on your scriptures, verse 26. But basically, it's just Exodus 18, 19, and 20, all three chapters. Okay. And there's some, even though this may be or seem to be a short parashah, there's the main ingredient in here, I should say, is dealing with the commandments, the 10 commandments. Mm-hmm. And so this is probably one of the Torah portions that is quite focused on. I remember it was out of chapter 20 is where I did my first CD, teaching on the 10 words. And boy, that was back in, I think 2001. So let me open up with a word of prayer. Father, I give you praise and glory, and again I thank you for this time. I thank you for the ability to be able to talk and study with, over the airwaves, and Father, that I pray that you give us wisdom and understanding, ears to hear, and we just give you praise in Yeshua's name. Amen. Mm-hmm. All right, I want to start off right at the beginning, 18:1. I'm going to put a little bit of time into this. So let me go ahead and read what mine says. Yitro, the minister of Midian, the father-in-law of Moses, heard everything that Yahweh did to Moses and to Israel, his people, that Yahweh had taken Israel out of Egypt. Now what's interesting, and I'm not going to go into great detail, but in that one verse there are a tremendous amount of olive tavs. Mm-hmm. And and we've talked about that before, but it's quite interesting in this first part of this Torah portion. There's a fair amount of olive tavs that are within the scripture. But let's kind of look at this. Yitro, the minister of Midian. Now, what would you consider a minister to be? Huh?
Basically a holy person, somebody that's in charge of religious rites.
Okay. So maybe a priest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
my version says priest.
Okay, yeah.
That's what mine says.
Now, who is he a priest of?
The people of Midian.
That's who he's a priest to, but who is he a priest of?
You would hope Yahweh, because he was a descendant of Abraham.
Okay. Amanda saying, hope it's Yahweh, because he's a descendant of Abraham. Now, I know we've talked about this before. What language do you think he spoke?
Hebrew.
Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
So it was easy for Moses to understand. Because I believe that through the generations, even them being in Egypt, the language carried through, even though Moses probably would have been bilingual. I believe that he, before he was really immersed in the Egyptian culture, he used Hebrew. He learned it from his mother and the friends that, relatives or whatever. So, but he was a minister unto Yahweh. He was a priest unto Yahweh. Now, why is that critical to understand? Why do you think that's so critical to know that, get that information? Honestly, I don't think many people really realize that he was, at the mountain that Moses was to come back to, and that he was, a son of Abraham. Many people just read over this, but it's important to, I think, understand the position that Yitro had, in that part of the region, especially in the land, because that was considered the land of Midian. So
if he's the priest of the Most High, he would be somebody that it would be fine for Moses to listen to.
okay, all right, had some sort of relationship with, or
Yeah.
under, some sort of what I'm going to say, commonality. Although you got to remember, Moses had been up to the point until he was at the mountain in the bush that was burning, spoke to him. He was distant from the Most High. We don't really, realize that. The children of Israel, when they were in Egypt, were distant from the Most High. I would imagine, because their culture changed. That's, again, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But, and the El Shaddai, the leader, or the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I'm sure that got passed down. But I think once Jacob passed on, took his bones and were buried in the land, and then, because they had to go back, Joseph had to go back to Egypt over the generations, from the time that the patriarchs died. I would imagine that knowledge of Yahweh had really decreased. And that comes out in this Torah portion, in my opinion. And so I'll talk about that when we get there. Okay, so Yitro represents, or is representative of the priests of the Most High. Now, the second thing in that one verse is he comments to Moses. He says, heard everything that Yahweh did to Moses and to Israel, his people, and when Yahweh had taken Israel out of Egypt. Now, in this particular time, this is coming up to the time, this is the time when they were in the land of Midian, and so we'll talk about the time period here in the next verse. But how did Yitro get the information so quickly? What's that?
He was probably within a couple of days' journey of the mountain. They were living fairly close. When you think about when Moshe first saw the mountain and the burning bush, and he was pasturing Yithro's sheep.
Right.
So they would have been living fairly close to the mountain.
Correct.
And you see a crowd of 2 or 3 million people and thousands of cattle coming in. It's nothing that would probably make the ground shake.
A lot of dust kicked up. Let's say that.
Yeah, a lot of dust.
But he heard this stuff before they even got there. And if we follow the route that they took, it just seems like they were just back and forth. They took an odd route. If you map it out, it's an odd route that they took, that the Father had them, that that he led them in. And so there were probably, I'll bring up the time frame now, because they're within the 3rd month from the time that they left Egypt. Okay. So a lot can happen, maybe a couple of days, 3 days, 4 days. If you're walking, you know, but hearing everything that took place, you know, somebody was scouting or whatever, or watching and getting information back to, you know, to Jethro of what was happening. So I think Jethro was anticipating them to return, or the people to come, or Moses to return especially, because part of this Torah portion deals with, you know, when Jethro comes out, he brings out Zipporah and is it Zipporah?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the two kids, the two sons. So I believe that he was anticipating Moses to return, but to return with a couple of million people, I don't know.
Well, the Most High could have shared the information with Yitro.
And that's true. That's true. But nonetheless, he'd heard what was going on and what happened and what took place. And, you know, especially with leading up to this portion, you know, they dealt with the Amalekites and another group of people, and so when you look at the maps, they were just north of where Midian, the mountain and Midian were, but then they went back around, you know, to the down the Sinai Peninsula. I don't know, it's just something that when I come across this Torah portion every time, it's like, my goodness, they kind of zigzagged their way down to when they crossed the, you know, the water.
Red Sea.
The Red Sea, yeah. So, I mean, just, you know, again, it's something, again, I just dwelt on this morning. But one of the main purposes about Yitro that is talked about is, you know, he was trying to teach, and he did teach Moses about delegating authority. And in verse 24, you know, Moses acknowledges that, and he takes the advice of Yitro. And I think most of us already know that Moses, when they decided to move on, Moses told them to come with him, and Jethro said, "No, I'm going to hang out here. I'm going to stay here." So there's a lot that happened that, in my opinion, sets the stage for what's going to come about through the children of Israel. All right. And we kind of in verse 1 and 2 of chapter 19, kind of want to head over there now. He gives us the time frame of when they showed up at the mountain in chapter 19, verse 1 and 2. And the way mine reads is, in the 3rd month from the exodus of the children of Israel from Egypt, on this day they arrived at the wilderness of Sinai. Well, I think that the word Sinai, I think, is a translation issue, because that puts it down in the peninsula, but where most people, you know, or scholars way back when, that's when they thought that's where the mountain was that Moses led the people to, not realizing it was across the Red Sea. It was across the Sea of Reeds, into what is present day Saudi Arabia. And near the place actually where Muhammad rises up. Okay, so let's look at the time frame. And there's something unique here that goes to what I talked about, I think, last week. You know, because most people believe, and I believe too, I've always taught it this way, that the children of Israel arrived at the mountain right before the time of what is considered Shavuot, or Pentecost. And so you have you know, these people gathering, And then the instruction goes out, to clean up and, for 3 days and don't touch the mountain. They get all these, directions and instructions. And so, but within the time frame, it only gives us a month. Doesn't give us a day. Doesn't give us a week. And that's why I consider Shavuot one of those floating Moedines. Because it's not a specific day. You don't start it on a specific day as far as the 16th day of the first month, or the 20th day of the first month, or the, so forth and so on. You start it, because it's agricultural, you start it by the harvesting. And so the declaration, again, I'm gonna just briefly go over this. The declaration of the first month can be made, but the harvest may take upwards of a month before it gets started. Or within a few weeks of the time of Passover. That's what I have noticed. So when you do the math on when, trying to figure out, I took some time this morning trying to do that again, of when they left. It says they left, after they arrived. Let me read it. In the third month from the Exodus is when they arrived at the mountain. All right. So it's not an exact figure of days. It's not 40 days, it's not 50 days, it's not 60 days. There is no particular days. That it just says it's in that third month from the time of the Exodus. So when the Exodus took place, how many days into the month?
14?
15.
15, that's right.
15 to 16, 17 days, depending on who you're reading and believing in. But just think about it. To move that amount of people, everybody can start leaving, but does everybody get out of there, at the same time? So, you've got that sort of delay, and so you figure at least 1 month, 2 months, 2 30-day periods. Now you're into the third month. So that can put you anywhere in our calendar issue. That could put you anywhere from the end of May to the middle of June. And that's sort of how years ago I came up with the conclusion, along with other scriptures in Exodus, that Shavuot was around the 1st of June. And pretty much it lands about there. And so, but it's like I said, it's a floating Moedim. It's a floating celebration.
And it's also like one of multiple fulfillments.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what, there's several things, and I read it, when I read commentaries about this time period, everybody focuses, well, most of them, let me put it that way, focus on the wedding part, or the betrothal part of what took place. And I can understand that. I've taught it, because and that's part of this Torah portion. When we really break it down and look at it, all the elements that are taught generally are fulfilled within this Torah portion. But it leaves a window or a door open, so to speak, to move away from that. To move away from, and the agreement. And so that's why let's go to verse 3 of chapter 19. Now, I'm going to have Martina. I want you to go ahead and read your.
Moses went up to Elohim, and Yahuwah called to him from the mountain. Thus you will say to the house of Jacob, and declare to the people of Israel.
All right. Interesting wording.
Hmm.
I don't know if any of you have really kind of just focused in just on that verse alone. But have you, Max? Have you taken a look at that?
Yeah, in the past, the distinguishing between the house of Jacob and the children of Israel. I've always looked at that as the house of Jacob as being the actual descendants, biological descendants of Jacob, and Israel as people in general, those, lack of a better term, grafted in, those Gentiles joined into the house of Jacob.
All right, very good. Yeah, and that's I say it the same way. The house of Jacob, house being generations. In the Hebrew understanding, the word house means generations, and I've taught on that before. So the house, the generations of Jacob, is what, because that's who he is speaking to at the mountain. But there are those that are not of Jacob that are also at that mountain. And personally, I believe that when the commandments were given, I believe there were some Midianites, if not all of them, that were there, because it was in their land. It was like a big revival going on, if we, in our kind of day and age, thinking about it, a big revival. But this one verse, the house of Jacob and the sons or the children of Israel. And again, along with what you said, Max, Jacob is dealing with the generations of Jacob.
Biological descendants.
Biological. Okay, very good. Thank you. And those are the human. Those are the, as John Lockwood would say, those from below or of the earth. But now we have Israel brought into it, and so the spiritual aspect now comes in. This is how I see it, the spiritual aspect. And as we read through this Torah portion, and I'm going to put it in this phraseology, the house of Jacob is called. The sons of Israel, or the children of Israel, are chosen. The house of Jacob is called, the children of Israel are chosen. And that's very distinct. Because we're going to read something at the tail end of this Torah portion. I'm going to bring it up in regards to that. And, so as you mentioned, Max, about the ingrafting or the grafting in, that's a lot of what is here. But there's conditions on being grafted in. It's not a blank type of thing. Once you say the right words, you're definitely grafted in. And that's what is difficult to understand. And I don't really want to go into that, the details of that right now, because I've talked about it in the past. But just with the understanding that it's all the ones that are chosen are not directly from Jacob. Okay. And there are those that are from Jacob, or in the generations of Jacob, that are not chosen. And I believe that's another reason why the separation comes in. And it comes down, to verse, let's see, verse 4 through 6, I think I've got here, yeah. So let me go ahead and read verse 4 through 6. You have seen what I did to Egypt, and that I have borne you on the wings of eagles and brought you to me. And now, if you hearken well to me and observe my covenant, you shall be to me the most beloved treasure of all peoples. For mine is the entire world, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests or ministers, and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the children of Israel, or the sons of Israel. Now, with all that we've talked about just prior to this, who are these words really going to be going to? This is where it's established, in my opinion, is right here. Who are these words that are going to be spoken going to?
All the nation of Israel, all those who obey, who accept.
Okay. If you, and the ones that are accomplishing it will be the chosen ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's going to spiritual Israel. And you can't just come right out blanketly and say, I'm spiritual Israel. Because if you say you're spiritual Israel, I'm going to do like what one of the writers in the New Testament does. Well, prove it. Prove it that you are spiritual Israel. You can't just say you're spiritual Israel and and just kind of live on that whole statement, which is what is taught.
Would you say, and it's kind of like, I don't know if it's a play on words or not, but would you say, instead of saying the chosen ones, would you say that those who choose?
No. And because I used to do that. That's the way I used to teach it was when, in chapter 24 of Matthew. I used to teach because I was taught that. Many are called, but few choose.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not the way it reads. It reads, many are called, but few are chosen. So the ones who are chosen are the ones who are also called. So the greater group is the called ones, the lesser group is the chosen ones. And for, I can't tell you how many years I've been finally, teaching it that way. And I know many of you have heard me say it already, is that, we're not the ones that choose to be a part of the kingdom of heaven. The Father is the one that chooses that. He has the only authority to do that. And that's where this is established. It's right here. In a way, this is where it's established. That the Father calls and the Father chooses. Now, there's another scripture that Yeshua said to not only his disciples, but I believe to the Pharisees. No one comes to the Father except through him. Except through the Word, through the Father's Word. But I used to always, when I was in other congregations, and I would teach, well, that, you accept that he is the Son of Yahweh. Well, it goes beyond that because you can't leave out the commandments. That's why this is all tied together, in my opinion. What we're reading here in Exodus. And that's why he says, speak to the children of Israel. These are the words that are go to them. Now, that's a tough thing for people to understand and accept. I know that. Because they say, well, we still have a choice. Yes, we still have a choice. That choice is put in front of us. Good and evil.
Mm.
Choose good, don't choose evil. We see that a couple of times here in the Torah. We see Yeshua saying it. Choose good, don't choose evil.
Mm.
That's the choice we have. So, if we choose good, what are we going to be doing?
What the word says.
Keep the commandments.
Mhm.
If we choose evil, or evil is expressed in a way of not keeping the commandments.
Doing what we want.
Yeah, doing what we want,
Mm.
even though we say we believe in the Most High.
Oil was a bag of worms.
It is confusing. It really is, and it's for years I was careful on how I presented this.
Yeah, I don't think it's confusing so much as it is. It's a thing that mainstream Christianity would really fight against.
Mhm.
Yes,
I say that because they want to say they believe in Yah, they believe in His word, they do all this stuff, but they choose to worship Him in their way, which is we look down at Israel was the same way. We believe, but we're going to worship Him in our way, and they were destroyed. I mean, they were taken into captivity, and everything, all these things befell them, which they were warned about over and over again. And so it's
see, and being a kingdom of priests or ministers, you can just take note in 1 Peter 2:5 is where we find that same phraseology. 1 Peter 2:5.
mm-hmm.
But in Peter, he's using it in a way of you have become a nation of priests and a set apart people. See, when you see the word holy here, especially kadosh, when you see that in the Hebrew, that just strictly means set apart.
Mhm.
You have been set apart. And who sets us apart?
The Father.
Yahweh does, yeah. The Father does. Again, it's all at His discretion.
Yes. Yeah, what I like to say to people, oh, I believe. I thought, well, yeah, even the demons believe and
Yeah.
shudder.
So-
That's not good enough.
So moving on to verse 7 and 8. So Moses came and summoned the elders of the people and put before them all these words that Yahweh had commanded him. Now, here's an important part. The entire people responded together and said, everything that Yahweh has spoken we shall do.
Mhm.
So Moses brought back the words of the people to Yahweh. All that Yahweh says we will do. I think everybody has the word all in there.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the limit in the word all?
There isn't any.
There is no limit. Exactly. And how much have they heard of what they're supposed to do?
He heard everything.
Did they?
I don't think they heard anything yet.
Oh yeah, they did.
They have, because earlier it said that he taught them. At another part it said they were being taught with his commandments and laws.
Yeah.
So they
It
already
started in Egypt.
yeah,
Mm.
they were being told what
Yeah,
they
they
were
were
supposed to be
being,
doing.
but it was all. And think about it. Put yourself in the place of those that were in Egypt at this time, and you're hearing these words. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because something very similar is going to happen in the future
Mm.
to another particular generation of the house of Jacob and the children of Israel.
Mm.
And there's going to have to be this decision, this choice made as to what you are going to do. Now, you start off, and this man shows up that some people didn't even know who he was because he'd been gone for 40 years. Some people did.
Right.
Now you gotta trust in this individual. You gotta trust in what he says. Because Moses himself gives it away when he says to the bush, "Who shall I say sent me?"
Yeah.
Why does he have to ask that? Because the name, the thought of the Elohim of Israel, of Jacob, was not in place. I believe it was, some had it, some people were aware of it, probably the older generation. But as time goes on, if it's not practiced or used, then it goes away. Now, there's one thing that's happened to many of the generations, the last centuries, where the name of Yahweh is not used. So it goes away. And then when people, start using it and bringing it back,
They're looked at like they're crazy.
yeah, they're heretics. You're blaspheming.
My brother and sister-in-law are coming today, and they pretty much think we're crazy.
So, it's well.
My brother has actually said, when I've mentioned something to him, he's like, "Well, that's not in the Bible that I read." And I'm like, "Well, it's the same Bible I read. I don't know what you're reading." Okay.
Which Bible are you reading?
Well, there's lots of arguments for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Different translations and stuff.
And so, the word I sort of highlighted the word "has," the words he has spoken. So there were words that were spoken to him, but to me the word "has" there is also inclusive of those that will be coming afterwards. So in a sense, what's happening is people were agreeing to something that they didn't know what they were agreeing to.
Okay, then that would be then another point as to why over the period of the next, I don't know, what month or so, this is repeated, and 3 times they come back and say, "All you have said we will do." They agree three times.
Exactly.
And what the number three means in Hebrew, and I think that is very significant. But yeah, I understand what you're saying there when they say, "All you said we will do." And so far, all you said is, "If you keep my covenant," so without even, I would say, limited knowledge of what the covenant was, they were agreeing to keep it.
Right.
And then on, more of this covenant stuff is brought out to them, and they became aware of it, and they still say the same answer.
Exactly. And again, I bring up that in the future, in the generations to come, that very same thing is going to be placed in front of them. They're going to have to choose. They will have to choose.
And that's why it seems like this incident with Yitro, as they teach, is out of order in Scripture, chronological order.
Yeah, and actually the rabbis talk about that.
Yeah.
But it's there for a reason. Remember, it's a pattern.
Right.
It's something that's going to take place. But I'm going to go back to the covenant thing because you mentioned the covenant, which is important because that's where people, when they're teaching that this is the marriage contract, this is the betrothal contract.
Right.
Now, the betrothal contract has everything in it. What you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept. These people are agreeing to something just like what you brought up, Max, with something that they have not seen or heard. Some things they have, but all things they have not. They didn't have the fullness of the betrothal contract at the time when they said, "All you say we will do." I find that interesting. So, if that's the case, is it truly a covenantal agreement
made by Yah. It was a one with Abraham. It was a one-sided covenant.
Okay. Now, with the word I used is covenantal, and I've read a lot of things on this. You have to, both parties have to agree to it.
Well, he did, and he said everything you say we will do.
Okay, and Amanda, Amanda just brought up everything you say we will do,
Yeah.
but not everything. They said that before everything was said.
Right, yeah. Well, it's just like if somebody gives you a contract and you sign it, and you only read part of it, you didn't read all the details, you're still bound by the contract.
Right. Exactly. And so, and then once people get in this, I mean, we kind of talked about this already, but when people get into the contract and read some of the fine points, or even read the bold points,
Mm-hmm.
the bullet points,
Mm-hmm.
and they go, I don't want to agree to that.
Mm-hmm.
Major one is when we get to, as we get to chapter 20, and we see the commandments that are definitely given. There's one, I had this conversation a few months ago with my family, and they're the ones that came to me and said, because they're of another denomination, they said, well, we're not keeping all the commandments, are we? I said, well, which one do you think you're not keeping? And they said the Sabbath.
Mm. So they know.
So they know. But it was like, see, they know it, but they're not keeping it.
Right. It's like, so now what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. Well, it's like, I didn't even go into that, because they've heard me, when I'm at home and I'm teaching over the phone and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of them are listening. I know my older sister is, but.
Well, it's definitely a topic that's come up, especially recently, since Charlie Kirk was big on keeping the Sabbath with his family.
Mm-hmm.
So it is something that has come up, and people have had to question it in themselves. Should we keep it? And then some are still choosing not to, because that's for the Jews, or that's not for us, that's
Right.
for someone else. So it is something that it does come up for many.
But one of the things with especially my sisters and brother-in-law, it did lead into a conversation to where now I presented a couple other commandments, the 10 of the 10, that they're not keeping either.
Oh. You think that's the only one, huh?
And that, we didn't go into great discussion. I was really hoping, I was praying, okay, Father, let this continue. And it will at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the way I pray about when I talk with especially my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just bringing this up, as far as the contract goes. And one of the things that we do know, Yahweh can make a covenant, but it doesn't. The receiving party doesn't have to agree to it, or know what they're agreeing to.
Right, Abraham was asleep.
All right, very good.
Hmm.
That's very good, because that's exactly where the pattern is.
Hmm.
His covenants, in my opinion, are one-sided. Yahweh's covenants are one-sided.
That's because he knows we're stupid.
Well, he created us, yeah. I'm not going to say he knows we're stupid, but he created. But on the other hand, he knows who he is called, and he knows who he is chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to believe in the scripture that everyone that he has chosen will not be lost.
Right.
I believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
Now the determination comes, are you chosen, or are you just simply called?
Mm-hmm.
And generally, if you come to, well, I'm going to just use myself as an example. When you come to that realization, and that's actually when I was, quote, born again, is when I made the decision, I'm going to follow what I'm supposed to follow
Mm-hmm.
within the scriptures at the best and the ability that is placed within me. And that was 15 years after I made the decision to believe in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
My salvation experience came 15 years later. All right. Where was I? All right, let's go to chapter 20. Oh, wait a minute, let me see. Yeah. This is verse 1. And I think all of your verses, in verse 1 reads about the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yahweh spoke, or Elohim spoke, all these statements, saying. Does everybody read the same way?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. There's a big element that's missing there in the Hebrew.
Oh.
Huge element. The word Elohim is there,
Yeah.
mostly translated as God.
Mm. Yeah, sure, should be Yehush.
All right. In the Hebrew, it's Elohim spoke, Aleph Tav, all these statements.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings out what?
Word of Yah.
The word of Yah is the one doing the speaking. Not, for those of us that have studied some of this out, that's not a big deal. But for those who are not aware of the representation of the word Aleph Tav or word, well, you miss it because it's not there. It's like in the verse 1 of Genesis 1. When Elohim created Aleph Tav, the heavens and earth. Okay. Now, those, I'm bringing this up. These are good discussions to have, when we have question and answer time. But I just want to bring it out. But I want to go into the next verse, verse 2. And it's a declarative. This is, for the most part, our first command, but it's a declaration. I am Yahweh. Now the name is there. The name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is there. Your Elohim, who has taken you out of the land of Egypt from the house of slavery. So just to help us understand and break that one verse down and the importance of that very first verse. These people who were standing at the mountain listening to this still had no clue who was speaking. People today who are reading this, many people don't know who's speaking. But if you don't have the Hebrew, you're not going to know that. Because as verse 2 begins, I am Yahweh. I am Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is what's in the Hebrew. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. So if you circle that and then put a line right back up to Elohim, now that would be, let me put it this way. Yahweh Elohim spoke Aleph Tav all these statements. Now your triennial people would really take this to the nth degree, because now it seems like there's two people there. That's what it seems like. You have Yahweh and you have Aleph Tav. They don't realize it's Yahweh that is speaking Aleph Tav. Now, why do most people don't realize that?
Because they don't know the Hebrew.
Okay, number one, they don't know the Hebrew, but there's another reason. In today, I'm talking about today.
Well, I mean, in the New Testament, Yeshua says, I and the Father are one.
Okay. Is that the only place that says it?
I'm sure there's not the only place, but that's the only thing, that's what came to my mind.
No, maybe in Numbers or Deuteronomy, where Moses, and we say this every week. Listen, O Israel, hear, O Israel, your Yahweh
Your Elohim
is one.
One.
But it makes it clear, so when John comes along, in the beginning was the Word, the Aleph Tav,
Right.
and the Aleph Tav was Elohim. So they're one. We all believe that.
Yes.
Do we really understand that? That's my question to our family. Do we really understand, my family of believers? Do we really understand that they are one? And the reason I bring that up is because still, even today, within Messianic communities, they'll focus on the Aleph Tav. And the reason they focus on the Aleph Tav is because he came in human form. I totally agree with him coming in human form. But I've come to the understanding that in John also, John 1:14, and the Word, the Aleph Tav, became flesh.
Sometimes it's a little easier to understand that if you go the actual Aramaic, or I don't think it's a Hebrew. The Aramaic word, the word in that case is I think it's miltha. I got it written down there, but it means manifestation. So if he manifests himself in human flesh, I think it's a little easier to understand maybe than
Yeah, to some degree.
It was for me.
Huh?
It was for me, I know.
Yeah, but let me. I hope this won't confuse you, but let me present this. I learned years ago when I first started, even coming into this in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Yahweh is spirit and spirit only. That's why it was kind of difficult until I came to an understanding later in the 90s. Yahweh is spirit and spirit only.
Right.
How is the spirit going to become flesh? And huh?
Is anything too impossible for Yah?
Okay, that's well enough said.
He manifested as a burning bush. He manifested as a pillar of fire and a pillar of cloud. He manifested as one who wrestled with Jacob. And as he does what I don't even know if it's even proper to call him he. There's another term we could use because he's everything. but he is all things.
Well, and he's all those things, yes.
Right.
But the he there is the Aleph Tav.
Right.
His word is all those things. What's manifesting is the Father's word. And like when I'm teaching on this, even you that are on the phone, you're hearing my words, but you're seeing nothing. You're hearing my words, but you're seeing nothing. So for 30 some odd years, his word was seen. But for however long you want to say, that this earth has been created, that's a short period of time.
It's a blip.
Yeah, it's a blip. It's it's quicker than you're blinking to really think about it. But the focus most people have is on the flesh.
Because we can relate to that.
Exactly, because we're human, and that's what we want to do. We want to relate to the flesh.
Yeah.
And that makes it difficult to understand what's going on in the heavens. It's hard to understand, there are the manifestation of good angelic beings and a manifestation of evil angelic beings. Because we can't readily see them. Time will come when we will. Time is coming when we will be able to see angelic as well as flesh. That's something to think about.
I've heard some people that they asked to see the
Oh, yeah. I was a part of
they
groups
saw
that,
him and they went, yeah, no, thank you anymore.
yeah, I was a part of groups that did the very same
I'm
thing.
done.
I have a hard enough believing what the flesh is all about, let alone to get involved with the spiritual realm like that. So, the first declaration, I am Yahweh your Elohim. And I believe what really scared the people is the way this came out. It came out in a way that was it was blasting. You felt the wind, part your hair, so to speak. You felt it. You didn't see it, but you felt it. That would scare me. I mean, think about it. If you've ever been out in a wind that's so strong that you get blown over by it, and I have a couple times, once in a hurricane, just to experience it. Wasn't a foolish thing, but it was. But it's like the power that is there. So I can see why the people were, they were scared, because of the power of what was hitting them and coming to them. But not only as I don't think it shattered their eardrums, but it was like it was embedded in their brain. It's something you will never forget.
And yet they forgot.
And yet they forgot.
Quickly.
Yeah. And those are the ones that forgot, are the ones, I believe, are the called ones but not chosen. All right. Any thoughts, any questions on that? I'm going to go ahead and finish there. Let me make sure. Let me see what's at the end here. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end there.
David,
Yes?
Does your translation have all the olive tops in it?
The Hebrew does, yes. And that's what I'm saying, this,
And that's what they're reading.
yeah, that, in fact, in this, that's why I said at the beginning, this Torah portion, there are a lot of olive talis in it.
Yeah, I know. I would like to see it, but I'm trying to find out what translation you're reading. That.
Well, I'm in the Stone's edition of the Chumash. If you, let's see, I'm trying to remember there's a website. Let me see if I have it written here. BibleHub.com. And if you put on that, and you'll have to navigate through their website. You can go to the interlinear. It's not that easy to use, but if you can get to their interlinear and learn how to work that, you can go down. It's got the English and the Hebrew together.
Aren't they? It's like one side's English and the other side is Hebrew.
Well, what Bible Hub is in some some interlinears, you'll have the English and then you'll have the Hebrew underneath.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've got, the Bible I have is the, JPS Hebrew English Tanakh. And it's got one column is English and the other column is Hebrew.
Right.
I'm looking, the olive top, he's talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I won't be in today, but if you want to look at it next week, you can.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and if there's no other questions, I'm going to pray us out. And okay, Father, I give you praise and glory, and I thank you again for this time that we have together, and I thank you for your word. I pray, Father, that as we study and as we learn, and especially, Father, what I'm presenting, that may what is truth be revealed. And so, Father, I seek your face for wisdom and understanding, as well as for everyone here. So just continue to be with us and our loved ones, and may you be glorified in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen.